If you're in a relationship, you're not only taking care of yourself, you're taking care of him too. I just, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. We lost the plot.
There's no romance. What's the point? Just kidding. Maybe.
Yo, it's Ann, aka Antagonist. Welcome or welcome back to my channel where we talk all things books, movie, and TV with an emphasis on romance. We're talking materialists today. Just know that there's only water in this mug. I just feel like people who have mugs are inherently serious, and I'm trying to give off that vibe, you know what I mean? But I don't actually like anything that you would put in a mug, really. Like, I don't like a hot drink, so it's just water in here. So I watched Materialist the other day, and I came out of the theater feeling pretty empty and somewhat frustrated. Materialist, starring Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Evans, is Celine Song's attempt at her sophomore film after her critically acclaimed debut, Past Lives, which got a lot of awards season buzz in 2024. But her second film has brought on a lot more conversation because of how polarizing it is. Some people love it, others absolutely hate it. And most of the conversation surrounds the ultimate choice that Lucy, Dakota Johnson's character, makes when she finds herself in a love triangle. And surprise, surprise, I am in the camp of people who did not like this movie. I was just gonna leave it at that. But seeing that it's being coined as one of the best modern romances by some, others calling it the ultimate anti-rom-com, I couldn't not give my 2 cents. What's interesting about this film is there seems to be a general consensus that the first half of the film is quite enjoyable and definitely the movie's strongest. Specifically, a lot of people describe the first half of the movie as riveting, and that's because the film does a good job of setting up its three main aspects. 1, the love triangle. 2, materialism and consumerism in dating. And lastly, the character study of Lucy. And in truth, all three aspects are in conversations with each other in the beginning of the film. But Materialist refuses to commit to any of these aspects, and we never truly dive deep into any of them. Therefore, it stifles its own message and ends up not really saying anything. So, let's get into it. And if it wasn't clear, major spoilers ahead, obviously. The romance in this film isn't great. In fact, it's not even elementary. We have the classic love triangle with the poor man versus rich man cliche. Pedro Pascal's character, Harry, is a born rich, stay rich, established man, versus Chris Evans' character, John, is a 37-year-old struggling actor who works primarily as a cater waiter. In most romantic films where there is a love triangle, the movie works to show you why one option is better than the other. And they'll use either of these two strategies to do this. Either one, they'll show that one option isn't right for the main character, or two, they'll show why one option is exceptionally right for the main character. Essentially, they work to prop up the winning couple, or they work to dismantle the relationship with the second leading man. Or they'll do both. But Materialist doesn't truly commit to its love triangle because we're never meant to see Pedro Pascal's character as a viable option. Not because the movie shows us evidence that makes us come to the conclusion that Harry isn't the right choice for Lucy. No. Instead, it's clear that Pedro Pascal's character isn't a viable option simply because the film needs him not to be an option. That's the difference between leading a horse to water and throwing a drink in the horse's face. In most films like this, where it's the rich man versus the poor man, they'll showcase how the poor man is a better option by villainizing the rich guy. They'll make him aloof, condescending, and just generally unpleasant, often inattentive to the female character's needs, while the poor guy is attentive, caring, and passionate. But most of the heavy lifting is done to showcase why the rich guy is the wrong choice for our main character, rather than showing why the poor guy is the right choice for our main character, which I find is lazy writing. Materialist attempts to subvert the evil rich man archetype with Pascal's character. He's pleasant, charming, emotionally attentive, really a true unicorn. But the film drives itself into a corner by making him so great and doing virtually nothing to make Chris Evans' character great. In fact, Harry is so perfect that the film's only trick to make him not a viable option is to essentially have him gradually disappear from the film. I'll speak more on John and Lucy's relationship later on in the video, but right now I'm going to stick to Harry. So in the film, Lucy ends up in a full-on relationship with him, but the timeline and nature of their relationship is kept so ambiguous and vague that we're not allowed to feel anything about them. Climax of their arc comes when Lucy finds a ring box in Harry's bag, and I found myself clutching my pearls because at that point I thought they had been dating for a couple weeks, 1 to 2 months max. So when Lucy notices scars on Harry's legs and they have a confrontation, I thought the tone of the conversation would be about how they're moving too fast, how they don't really know each other yet, and they're kind of microwaving and fast forwarding their relationship. No, instead, we get into a conversation on how Harry had surgery to elongate his legs to make himself taller. And Lucy decides to break up with him. Harry rightfully asks if the reason that they're breaking up is because she found out about his surgery. But Lucy reveals that she's breaking up with him because she doesn't love him and she doesn't believe that he loves her either. Which I feel like is a bold assertion to make after you just found a ring box in his bag, but I digress. Most of all, I was sitting there questioning if they were even at the point in their relationship where they needed to be in love with each other. We're just being told that there isn't love in this relationship, but I haven't seen the relationship. How would I know? The rule of thumb in all film is show, don't tell. But we haven't seen the flaws in Harry and Lucy's relationship because we haven't seen their relationship at all. Lucy and Harry also don't seem to interact with any other characters other than each other and the one time that they go to John's play. The isolation of their relationship from the rest of the plot takes away from their relationship feeling real. And this makes the love triangle aspect in the film extremely shallow. It also makes everything really boring. It feels like the movie is trying so hard not to be like a typical rom-com that it forgets to have fun with its characters or challenge its characters. And instead, we're left with dead space between scenes and characters that don't feel lived in. When Lucy and Harry break up, it feels like a plot beat that needs to happen rather than something organic. And it's jarring because their conversations before this are riveting, seemingly having depth, and are an interesting commentary on modern dating. And yet, after their breakup, Harry is never to be seen in this movie again. And we still have like 40 minutes left. So the love triangle is set up, never truly explored, and then killed halfway through the film, leaving us with essentially no depth to this aspect of the film, making it ultimately meaningless. This was my favorite aspect of the movie. It was riveting to explore the world of matchmaking and modern dating. I loved the scenes with the client interviews. Watching Lucy's dynamic as a matchmaker was so interesting, especially that one scene where she's talking down her client who's having cold feet minutes before she has to walk down the aisle. And we're posited this idea of feeling valuable in the dating marketplace. Film showcases how we assign worth to human beings based on somewhat superficial things like height, career, body fat, BMI, receding hairlines, you know what I mean? And even the idea of commodifying dating, making it a checklist, and the idea of ticking boxes rather than looking at a person or trying to make connections. Even questioning the ethics of matchmaking and asking the question of if this is creating a luxury or product or materialistic version of dating. I had seen the trailer for this film and I expected to be captivated by the romance, but I was pleasantly surprised by this aspect of the film, and it's what kept me hooked. All of this was working for me, and I kind of wish that was the aspect of the film alone. And then the film takes quite a dark turn with one of Lucy's clients named Sophie. We meet Sophie early on in the film. Lucy often complains about her and how she's quite difficult, but unfortunately, Sophie ends up being assaulted by one of the men that Lucy sets her up with. And Lucy kind of has a crisis about this because she feels guilty for the entire ordeal. There's this extremely poignant scene where Sophie calls out Lucy for dehumanizing her and making a fool out of her. In her hurt and anger, Sophie calls Lucy a glorified pimp. And I thought it was so poignant because the character is calling out how Lucy in her job has now commodified her clients and their love lives. She sees them as numbers and nothing else. Even the way Lucy responds to Sophie when she asks why she set her up with that man, her response is, he ticked a lot of our boxes, which seems to be her response to most things. And it shows that she can't see beyond the math that she's invented for dating. She makes a lot of empty promises like, we're going to be able to find you your dream man if we just plug and chug these numbers, which cannot be true with life because life is so unpredictable and you cannot foresee these kind of variables. And I truly think this aspect of the film was being handled the best until the movie fumbled the bag near the second half. See, right around the part where Harry disappears from the film, so does Sophie's character. And because Lucy's been put on leave as well from her job after she had an outburst, The matchmaking aspect of the movie is no longer a factor. So this aspect of the film seemingly disappears, and we spend the remaining 40 minutes waffling around with John and Lucy's romance, which was such tonal whiplash. And in dealing with such a serious topic as SA, the film makes really strange choices near the end. Sophie's character makes a final appearance in the film's climax. Lucy and John are having a fight about how they're not meant to be when Sophie calls Lucy, saying the guy who attacked her is trying to enter her building and won't leave. And Sophie claims that she doesn't have any friends in the city and she didn't know who else to call. So Lucy was kind of a last resort there. So John and Lucy drive all the way to Sophie's place, and Lucy and Sophie have a heart-to-heart. And this scene again is some of the best the film has to offer. But unfortunately, after this scene, we immediately cut to John and Lucy having a grand romantic confession to remind us, hey, this is a romance film. This is what you wanted, right? It's what you came for. Right? Like having Lucy talk to Sophie about how she's not damaged goods after her assault and assuring her that there is a life after this and that she deserves love like anyone else. And then going outside to have John saying that all he can offer Lucy are calendar invites to remind himself that he loves her every day. It just feels like a slap in the face. It feels that they use Sophie as a plot device, a cheap trick to get John and Lucy to stop fighting about their real issues that they need to resolve badly, and instead distract them with a life-threatening situation via Sophie's impeding danger. And then all that adrenaline just tricks Sophie and John into thinking they're a good match. And then they proceed to make out in front of Sophie's apartment where her attacker was lurking around a few hours ago. Romance. I'm just gonna get right to it. Where most people have an issue with this film is that Lucy ends up with John, aka the Brokey, which isn't really a spoiler or a surprise. Based off the trailer alone, I could tell that she was going to choose him in the end. If you've watched any film from the 90s and early 2000s, this is a tired and old cliche that they decided to revive for this movie. I really hope this isn't a trend going forward. That being said, there are plenty of films that have come to this conclusion where a stuck-up girl chooses a more down-to-earth guy or lifestyle. But I've never felt animosity towards those films the same way that I feel about materialists. And that's because mine and most people's frustration with the film is that the journey for Lucy's character to get from point A to point B is poorly done, lacks depth, and is essentially non-existent. The film is trying to teach us a lesson through Lucy's character, which is very interesting given Lucy's characterization. When we're introduced to Lucy, it seems like we're doing a character study on someone who has truly internalized and embodies what modern dating feels like today. She's cold, calculating, materialistic, and too exacting. From her job, we see that Lucy is very matter-of-fact when it comes to dating, and yet she ends up with John the Brokey. The girl who likes nice things ends up with a man who only has $2,000 to his name. And the movie absolutely fails to show how her character changes to accept that. There's never a moment where Lucy realizes she doesn't want to live her luxurious lifestyle. She questions if she wants to continue to do her job because she believes she's incompetent after her incident with Sophie. But that's not a romantic realization. Does that mean that she wants to go for broke now? And does that also mean that she wants to be with John? The closest thing to a romantic realization is when Lucy breaks up with Harry, and she says although she believes that marriage is a business transaction, an agreement, she does think that love needs to be present and involved in the transaction. But at this point, the film has done nothing to show us how she came to that conclusion. And we also don't see Lucy learn any lessons from her rich man relationship. And even so, Lucy claims she ends the relationship because there was no love between her and Harry. But am I then supposed to conclude that she should be in a relationship where there is love and nothing else? And even this great love between her and John that we're supposed to be rooting for, I didn't see it. Remember early on in the video when I spoke about the two strategies that are needed to convince people of an option in a love triangle? Well, I didn't mention that there is one strategy that is absolutely necessary, and that's propping up the winning couple. Because just making the second leading man not a viable option doesn't automatically make the audience root for the winning couple, because being single is always an option. It's not the absence of romance in one relationship that justifies another. The romance needs to be able to stand on its own, and the love triangle should be further highlighting why the winning couple is a good match, not justifying it. Are we going to act like Materialists is the first movie to attempt this narrative? So many films, if not most Western romantic films and stories, emphasize love over materialism. It's an early 2000s cliche. And I don't have a problem with any of these films. But what's the difference here? Actually convincing your audience, actually taking them along for the journey. I can't even see why Lucy is in love with John. And I'm not convinced that she is. Not in the movie I watched. Let's look at the evidence, shall we? When they first meet up again, it's clear that John still has very strong feelings for Lucy. Lucy, on the other hand, makes one of multiple attempts throughout this movie to use John. He's trying to learn more about her and how she's doing, but she doesn't really engage meaningfully with his questions. He also makes a lot of self-deprecating comments about his job, and Lucy is pretty dismissive of his worries and says, well, you still have a job, even though she clearly has an issue with the kind of job he has. But her dismissal is a way to shut him up to get her back to her place, which gives the impression that she just has an itch that she needs to scratch rather than her truly trying to reconnect with her ex. And John clearly picks up on that. That's the reason he doesn't go up to her apartment when she invites him. Then in a flashback, we see why John and Lucy didn't work out, seemingly because of financial issues, but also because of poor communication and them not establishing their expectations for each other. Then the next time we see them together is when they go to John's play, where Lucy's shaken up about the situation with Sophie. And he notices she's upset, but does a really poor job at comforting her. He's pretty dismissive, and to give him the benefit of the doubt, that could have been just extremely poor timing. And whether it's because his comment was truly condescending or because Lucy projected onto his comment is irrelevant, because clearly these two can't communicate to save their lives. In the next scene, Lucy calls John and tells him the truth about what happened with Sophie, and he listens. This is the first positive scene we've seen between them, and we're probably halfway through this movie at this point. Notably, Lucy hasn't told anybody about the situation with Sophie, including her boyfriend Harry, which I feel like is a cop-out from the movie. They don't even allow Lucy to open up to Harry to show that he may not be right for her. Why wouldn't Lucy at least try to communicate with Harry and then that go badly and then it shows that she cannot be comforted by him? No, she doesn't even give him a chance or open up to him. She just seemingly has a dependency, a toxic dependency on her ex. But it's clear that in Lucy only talking to John about her problems, the film is trying to position this as a, oh my gosh, he's the only person she can really talk to. How romantic. Instead, I'm thinking he's the only person she can talk to, because she has no friends, seemingly no family, and she refuses to let anybody in. Meanwhile, she's using John for emotional labor again before going back to her rich man who can provide the lifestyle that she wants. And when she breaks up with Harry and she doesn't have a place to stay, she goes to John because she doesn't have a place to stay, which is scary. Again, where are your friends? Where are your sister, sibling? Nobody? Again, this just makes it feel like John is the only person that Lucy has connected with emotionally in New York City. That's just concerning, not cute. And she picks him up and drops him off whenever she feels like it. That's the couple I'm supposed to be rooting for? And there's no proof of concept to this relationship success whatsoever. We aren't shown in any aspect the positives of Lucy and John's relationship. Lucy and John don't really have many scenes together in the film, and the few scenes they do have together don't really help their case. I haven't seen why or how Lucy loves John. They seemingly don't even have things in common anymore. And even if they do love each other, and if I were to believe that, the same issues that they had in their relationship back in the day are still present. John has been broke for 37 years and by all means will continue to be so, and Lucy has a problem with that. She openly says so at the wedding. But then they have their situation with Sophie, and then she comes out and just changes her mind and says, oh, I'm a big girl. I can take care of myself. That's so stupid, because if you're in a relationship, you're not only taking care of yourself, you're taking care of him too. I just, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. We lost the plot. Yo, this is editing and speaking. I didn't speak on this in the video, but I have to make it clear that I completely disagree with the implicit messaging that this film is sending. At the beginning of the movie, Lucy is asked how she deals with needy clients who have laundry lists of impossible demands in what they want in their future partner. And she essentially says that it doesn't matter how silly or frivolous she thinks their ask is because she gets her clients what they want. And if they want something, therefore it has value. And that's enough. But at the end of the movie, Lucy ends up with John, compromising all her values and her wants in a partner. So the movie is framing all of Lucy's wants in a partner as silly and frivolous, which I find is a seriously disingenuous and backwards message to send. Because it's one thing to say her values may have been exaggerated, like when she said she wanted to basically marry the richest man alive. But her valuing the security of a man with a stable income or not wanting to fight with her boyfriend on their 5-year anniversary because he's screaming, crying, throwing up about paying $25 for parking isn't unreasonable at all. Especially because in this film, she compromises all her values to be with John, and John compromises none of his. He still gets to pursue his dreams. Meanwhile, Lucy's compromising all her values and seemingly changing herself. Like, she talks about completely quitting her job at the end of the movie. Like, he literally grabs a meal from the halal cart and proposes to her with a flower after she explicitly said in the movie that she wishes she was the kind of person that would be okay with a halal meal, but that's just not her. What is going on? There's zero give and take in this film. How are we regressing in our messaging here? Like, what happened? What happened to equalities of the sexes? What is going on here? Celine Song, answer for this. What's going on? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. As for me and my house, we don't play about that. No. The film does zero work to show why Lucy and John are a good couple and why they would even work the second time around. In this film's attempt to subvert the romantic comedy genre and expectations, it ends up not truly building on anything. And in the latter half, the screenplay returns to the same cliche and familiar conventions of the rom-com, without any of the elements that make a good romantic comedy. Materialist couldn't even commit to being a true anti-rom-com because if it was, Lucy would have ended up alone. Or it could have ended in an ambiguous way, similar to The Graduate, where the both of them are together, but there's this unsurety and uncertainty floating in the air, where we see that we're often doomed to repeat the mistakes of our parents in relationships. The same way that Lucy spoke about how her parents fought over money and ultimately ended up divorcing. Even if Lucy ended up accepting that she'll be the breadwinner, CEO, girl boss of her relationship, fully supporting John's non existent career, that would have actually been a subversion. But there was nothing subversive about this romance or its ending. Instead, in the epilogue, Lucy flippantly says she's going to quit her job and become a brokey too? And we get a cookie cutter happily ever after ending with marriage and wedding bells that feels so out of place. The movie keeps trying to not be a cliche, but forgets to build a movie that earns its ending. It's like it wants to have its cake and eat it too. Materialist had something good going on and could have been a great movie if it committed and stuck to even one of the three aspects that it set up. Yet, in Materialist's attempt to subvert and be different from the romantic comedy, it ends up being the skeleton of a rom-com without any of the work or charm. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked my review. Definitely let me know what you thought about the film. Did you like it? Did you not? Do you agree with me? You have to, because I'm correct. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Please consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye! Darling.